sorry for this. It never fails. Every conference I've gone to, something like this happens, and I never learned. It's amazing. The last one was about three weeks ago, and the battery died. So I'm giving a presentation. I swear, I mean, it's amazing. Anyway, my name is Anteneh Roba. First and foremost, I want to thank Tiago and especially Arfan for inviting me. It's been a pleasure being in India, and I'm definitely coming back to visit and to learn more. My name is Anteneh Roba. I'm a physician by training. I work in the United States, even though originally I'm from Ethiopia. And so our organization's work is in Africa. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based out of Houston, with an office in Addis Ababa and relationships in South Africa. We were incorporated in 2006. What I'm going to do is give you a very quick intro into what we do as an organization, and then talk about the challenges that animals in Africa face and what some of the things we can do about it. We pride ourselves being a human rights and an animal rights advocacy organization. We work on both, and it makes a lot of sense in Africa to do that because, and I'm sure in some parts of the developing world, where if you focus on animals, people will say to you, "What about human beings? There's so much suffering in Africa. So many people dying of hunger and this, that, and the other, and you're worrying about animals." And so, even though that's not why we're doing it, the fact that we do human advocacy work really helps us, because then we can say, look, I worked my butt off helping out the human beings, and so you have no right to complain about us helping animals. Even then, it's a challenge, but it makes it a lot easier. But again, that's not why we do it. We do it because we believe in it. We believe that all life is to be helped, and we do not differentiate between humans and animals. Our philosophy is biocentric, and so that's our main reason for doing it. In Ethiopia, we've been working with hospitals, providing help to create neonatal units. Ethiopia is one of those countries where little babies born the first 30 days of life have very little chance of surviving if they have any medical problems, or they are born prematurely because they have no medical care, and even the physicians are not trained to take care of them. So we've been providing, especially in the capital city, with equipment to help those facilities that have interest in helping little babies. We also work in rural care and development. We do medical missions in northern Ethiopia. Our last one was in March of 2012, where we saw in 6 days 4,374 people, and did 236 eye surgeries, where we took people who were completely blind because of cataract mostly, and also trachoma, and gave them back their eyesight. So we do a lot of human work. We focus on prevention, but also, like I said, curative care. The problem in rural Ethiopia, and that includes the animals too, is that the problem, and I see it even here in India, is poverty. Poverty is the issue. Medical issues in Africa can be addressed fairly easily if poverty is eliminated. So until poverty is addressed, issues of medical care will not be successful. So problems with food security, water shortage, lack of education, lack of energy sources, and lack of roads and transportation are issues. Now to the main reason I'm here. We also are, as I said, we call ourselves an animal rights organization. And basically, most of what we do is not hands-on work, but more advocacy and teaching and helping others who are doing the hands-on work. We try as much as we can to educate people about animal suffering in Africa. We do videos, training, we do talks on radio, television, whenever we have the chance. We also are supporting organizations that are working in Ethiopia, for example, on implementing animal protection laws. One thing beautiful about India is that you have wonderful animal protection laws already. Now, implementing it is another thing, but at least the laws are there. In Africa, and that includes Ethiopia and most of sub-Saharan Africa, there are no laws. And so we have a big challenge in that we're working on doing that. The one area that we have gotten involved in direct care is rabies prevention. We've worked with HSI actually happened. We've worked with Rahul Sigal, who came to Ethiopia with his Indian team and helped us do the spray and neuter program in the capital city, vaccination programs. Then the other thing, and the strongest things we do in Ethiopia and actually in other parts of Africa is promoting veganism. I call it promoting plant-based diet, but actually what we're trying to do is implement the concept of veganism in Africa, which is a concept which is not only about eating, it's about a way of life, of treating animals with respect and dignity. We don't really focus that much on the ethics part, not because we don't want to, but because it's really does not resonate at this point with people in Africa, from my experience. Even though people do care, but they're approaching them from an ethical point of view strictly is not something that will work at this point. Down in the future, it may. Health, on the other hand, is one area that really works well because people in Africa, surprisingly, are very obese. I know a lot of people, especially people from in the West, in the US and Europe, whenever they think of Africa, they think of hunger and poverty. Poverty is a problem and hunger is a problem, but there are a lot of people, because of socioeconomic issues and class stratification, there are a lot of people that are really doing well in Africa and hence are very obese, especially in the major cities. And diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, cancer are big issues. And so approaching people from this point of view really works. And we're getting really good results convincing people to start eating whole plant-based foods because of health issues. Environmental issues are other arguments that we make, but again, just like the ethics, it's not as convincing to people for some reason. We basically started or helped start the first vegan association in Ethiopia, which was incorporated into an NGO 2 years ago, and we've been doing conferences for the last two years and trying to convince the government to support us, and also talking about veganism through seminars, like I said, radio and TV. And it's amazing how much positive reception we've been getting from this. It really is really amazing that the last conference we did, we had about 100 people, and every ministry of health, agriculture, and environmental agencies and other ministries were attended, and they were very supportive of us. Ethiopian television gave us full coverage. The 2 days after the conference, we were getting calls at our IFA office, people wanting to know how to start eating healthy. So the interest in veganism and plant-based foods, eating healthy, is a motivating factor in countries like Ethiopia, because people are concerned about their health. And that's one way we can approach them. Now, I'm going to start talking about just general issues that affect animals in Africa. I can't go into detail about each and every one of them, but I can tell you from my experience, and because of lack of time, I won't go to into much detail, but animals in Africa, as also in other parts of the world, are severely exploited. The thing is, the difference between, let's say, the US or Europe is that in the United States and Europe, because of the media, because of people who have organizations that fight for these animals, their suffering is fairly well known. In Africa, on the other hand, because human suffering is such a huge issue, the issues about animals is not obvious, it's not visible. And so people don't realize that animals are severely exploited in Africa. Their suffering is invisible because, made a mistake there. Their suffering is invisible because of the human issues that are causing it. That basically the human issues are so overwhelming that people ignore the issues that affect animals. Their suffering is constant and unending, and this is across sub-Saharan Africa. Now, some of the causes of animal suffering, the usual suspects, and this is across the globe: economic exploitation. What is more specific about it in Africa is because there are certain things that are very pertinent, very specific to Africa, like wildlife is an issue. Countries like South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Tanzania actually allow hunting. Kenya is the only country that does not. And now there's the Ministry of Forestry is considering allowing hunting again in Kenya, and it's a big issue. ANAW, one of the organizations that's working very hard in Kenya, is taking this issue, I think, to the courts because it's such a powerful issue. In South Africa and Botswana, hunting is a major problem, and not only legal but illegal hunting is a big problem. Big game hunting, people coming from the United States paying $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to kill a lion. Cage hunting is a huge problem in Ethiopia, in South Africa and in Botswana and other countries. The ivory trade, I don't know if you've heard about this, but it is a huge issue right now. The rhinos are almost going extinct because of the amazing amount of killing that's going on, especially in South Africa. I mean, it's getting to epidemic proportions, and most of it is because people in the Orient want their body parts for different things. And it's a big problem. Bushmeat, I don't know how many of you are aware about bushmeat. Basically, what's happening is the areas in Africa, like the Congo Basin, where there are a lot of forests, logging companies are clearing the land, the trees, the forest, and exposing the animals. And what's happening is the people, the local, are falling into these areas that have been cleared and killing the animals for bushmeat. Some of them because they need to eat and they don't have food, and some of them because bushmeat is expensive, and so they can go to the markets and sell it for a high price. So bushmeat is a problem that is related to
what kind of animals? When you say bushmeat?
Monkeys, gorillas.
They're eating.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're selling them in markets for high prices because they're like delicacy. Yeah. And then in some cases they're eating them because they're hungry, and economic issues also play a part in this. The other problem that a lot of people don't know about is overfishing of the coast of Africa, and this affects all of the coast. But for example, Somalia, a lot of European countries and Middle Eastern countries are basically going to parts of the coast of Africa and overfishing. Now, why I gave Somalia as a reason is because, as an example, is because Somalia doesn't have a functioning government. And so they do not protect their coastal line. And what's happening is the people that depend on fishing in these areas are basically can't take care of their families because the fish are being basically completely denuded of any fish in the area. These huge fishing ships come in and take as many fish as they can, and move on. And so basically there's a scarcity of fish in the area. Not that I support this to begin with, but the issue is there's a lot of economic exploitation going on in Africa that's, that's causing hunger and problems in some of these countries. The other thing, this is something that, I'm surprised I didn't see that much in India. Actually, I didn't see at all, but I haven't traveled everywhere, so I can't speak. I can't be sure if it's not an issue or not, but in sub-Saharan Africa, because of poverty and because of lack of, people don't have money, especially in rural parts, animals are used for transportation. And in a country like Ethiopia, especially donkeys and horses are so badly treated, it's unbelievable. It is so painful to see. You can drive 10 minutes outside of the capital city of any major city in Ethiopia, and you see donkeys and horses that look horrible, who work from the day they're born to the day they die, to the point where when they become useless to the owners, they can't take care of them, they let them go, and these animals basically wander for days, for weeks, until animals eat them or they die of starvation or thirst. Same thing with donkeys, especially. There are no protective laws to protect these animals from abuse, and so I don't know if you can see this, but these donkeys are carrying weights that are just ridiculously huge, to the point where when you take off all this stuff from their back, basically if you look at their back from sideways, their backs are like a U. Their bones are so, the weight has crushed it to the point where their bones are curved in a U shape. It's really, really sad to see, and not much is being done about it. Nobody really cares. They work from morning to evening, 16 hours, no food, no water most of the day, and then when the people that take care of them or use them take a break to eat, they basically use this method called hobbling, where the donkeys, where they tie their legs so that they can't move, and they tie them with a rope, and basically these donkeys stand there for hours until the person who owns these donkeys comes back from wherever they've been eating or whatever. Their life expectancy is very short. For horses, it's like 10 years. In European countries, they live 30, 40 years, 50 years in some cases. In Ethiopia, 10 years maximum. And of course, animals for food. That's a problem everywhere. The problem in Africa, factory farming is becoming an issue. It's coming into Africa. It's fully developed in South Africa. Countries like Kenya, even Ethiopia, they're beginning to do that. And so the issues of animals being stuck in small areas, in thousands of them, never seeing sunlight, never touching the ground is going to be an issue. But meanwhile, transporting these animals for food from one area to another is also horrendous. Here you can see, this is in Ethiopia. These are lambs and goats who are tied to a truck, transporting them to some area to be slaughtered. Their skin is used locally and exported internationally for making leather goods. In Ethiopia, a lot of leather is made and sent to the Middle East. Countries like Botswana actually export meat to the United States and Europe, surprisingly. So there's a lot of incentive. Now imagine this: you basically feed to these animals grain that you can feed your family, your people, and then once these animals have grown to a certain age and stage and are hefty, they're slaughtered, and their meat, instead of feeding their people, is sent overseas. It's really a cruel joke, what's happening in some parts of Africa. Animals for entertainment. Zoos in Africa exist, but in name only. basically they put them in these small areas and very, very deplorable conditions that it's not even worth talking about. It's very, very sad to see these animals who are, lions and tigers lions and elephants and other wildlife who are stuck in these deplorable conditions, emaciated, sometimes, left to die on the floor because they don't even feed them. Because the whole idea is they want, these African cities think they have to, they have to have zoos like in London and Washington D.C. or whatever, and so they think that by doing this, they're part of the civilized world. National circuses. I don't know circuses in sub-Saharan Africa except for South Africa, and that is something that the animal welfare organizations and animal rights organizations in South Africa are trying to deal with. National parks, ecotourism is, I have a problem with it, even though in some ways I understand that ecotourism is it's a better choice than actually, hunting, better than hunting and hunting, but still animals are commodified, are seen as entities that have no intrinsic value but have extrinsic value, and so morally it's problematic, but pragmatically it's something that most countries I think should support and would help a lot to decrease the suffering of animals. Animals for research. Surprisingly, a lot of big European and American companies are moving into Africa to set up research labs. A lot of primates are sold to Europe and U.S. companies. Kenya is one of the countries that supports animal labs, and a lot of Western pharmaceuticals are starting to move into that country. Cultural norms and practices is a huge problem in Africa, especially in Southern Africa, religious animal sacrifice. I wrote an article for a South African magazine about the ritual killing of bulls in South Africa, which is a yearly thing where 40 Zulu warriors who normally would dress nice and have wonderful jobs, dress on a given day, December 5th of every year, they change into their traditional garbs and go and basically, physically, 40 people tear a bull to pieces for ritual, sacrificial reasons. And it's seen as a cultural identity, and a lot of people participate in it. It's something that is very difficult to dislodge because it's a cultural issue, and especially if you come from Western countries, even an organization like mine, who's saying this is wrong, we are categorized as coming from the Western countries with cultural imperialistic mentality. So it's really hard to fight this cultural practices, but it is something that a lot of organizations in Africa are working on.
Does it balance?
I'm sorry? With their bare hands.
Can I interrupt you though to say that because we got to the late start, your session is going to be over in about a few minutes. Maybe, can I respectfully ask you to skip ahead to what you're doing about it, and just because we'll otherwise run out of time, I'm so interested to hear who the we is of your organization and what they're doing. Because I know you go on, and it is really interesting.
Well, see, I
want to hear how you're campaigning.
Well,
if you are,
well, yes. I actually, what we're doing, I kind of mentioned it earlier on.
Because it's 10 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 minutes.
What we're doing is, like I mentioned earlier on in the program, we are working with organizations in some parts of Africa to basically change attitudes, policies, governmental policies, and basically education. Those are the things we're doing. But the problem is, and I'll go through this very quickly, so what we can do, and in some cases what we are trying to do and have done, is number one, understand the structural, political, cultural, and economic basis of exploitation, and work with organizations that are trying to address this. And this is a problem because a lot of organizations in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, are not well organized. They don't have funding. They don't have money. So trying to address these issues, going to the people in power and trying to address the issues that affect animals is a huge problem. However, there are organizations that are doing that. Like I was saying, ANA is one of the organizations in Kenya that's basically directly going to the governments and the government of Kenya and battling with them, trying to change some of the egregious policies that the government is trying to institute. The problem is that in sub-Saharan Africa, because, like I said, human issues are such a big problem in African countries. Basically, the focus is on human issues. Animal organizations are very weak. They don't have the support they need. Major organizations in the West and in Europe and the United States don't support these organizations to fight the political battles that need to be fought. In our case, with IFA, we're hooking up with the Humane Society International to work on issues about factory farming. In fact, in January there is a conference in Nairobi, and we are going to approach FAO about this problem, and the details are still being worked out. In Ethiopia specifically, we are trying to approach the government to institute animal protection laws, and we're working with 4 or 5 British-based organizations that are working in Ethiopia to do that. Again, the other things that we're doing is we're trying to educate the people, because once the people start understanding, we start getting support from the people, not only financial support, but voices, and then and members, then you can address the political personnel and try to convince them to work with you and to effectuate change.
Can I ask you to please be specific? When you say working with the people, I think everybody in this room might have a different idea about what that means in their own communities. So I don't understand from your talk so far whether you have an organization, and when you say work with, I don't know what that means, and I really want to understand you. What do you mean, work with? Do you mean to go into schools? When you say go into schools, do you give structured presentations, or do you have informal, spontaneous?
No, we do. We go. Okay.
Policymakers.
Okay. We do different things. One is basically going to the public and do presentations for the public. We do seminars. We organize day seminars and go to basically invite the leaders of communities, university students from the different ministries to come to where we're doing a presentation, and we talk to them and explain. We bring people from other countries to.
Do you mean like you say we're having a discussion about animal rights, animal needs? Can you come to our presentation? Okay, so they come to an auditorium or a classroom like this?
Yeah, we do. Like what we're doing here, we do basically. We approach we send out flyers to the different ministries, to the educational, to the schools, and through the contacts we have in animal organizations to invite people to come to our.
And you show them slideshows, PowerPoints in their local language?
We do PowerPoints. No, we do PowerPoints like we do here, and we do presentations, and we have speakers coming from different parts of the country and from outside to speak about what their experience.
Okay.
See, the problem is I couldn't go into detail because of the time issue, but I would have liked to.
Eventually, I think this is because the sessions are being postponed.
Okay. Well, I kind of try to go very fast, and so in Ethiopia specifically, what we do is we organize talks with seminars, one-day seminars. We've got two-day seminars. We also have volunteers who go to schools and leaflets to students. We go to animal clinics and provide them information about how to take care of their dogs and so on and so forth. Once a year we have conferences and we invite people from overseas to come and do presentations. We also do presentations. We also talk to the media and have them let us do interviews. We've been interviewed on radio, television. We've also done some ads, to newspapers in the capital city. And we also provide brochures and leaflets, not only in Ethiopia, but also other parts of Africa. Brochures about veganism, about plant-based diet, about the environmental effects, the health effects, and the ethical side of it. So many things we're doing. It's really hard to talk about all the details. And then, like I said, we're also working with specific organizations in the capital city to basically present to the government of Ethiopia what we suggest should be.
How many of you are it's an educational
Mostly advocacy
organization, advocacy organization, and how many staff, how many volunteers do you have?
We have 5 staff members. We have about 10 volunteers in Ethiopia, and then in the U.S. about 10, 15. And so, basically, because we do human issues, we're spread out, and that's part of the problem we're facing because we don't have enough people and enough volunteers to do that and outreach.
Can you tell us some example or story about challenges, maybe a challenge that you faced, and then how you all overcame it?
Okay, well, one of the challenges we're facing is basically convincing the government to support us on some of the issues that we're trying to address. For example, the spay-neuter program. We started a spay-neuter program in 2009, and we spayed and neutered about 1,000 dogs, and we wanted to continue the program, and we asked the government to stop killing the animals because, it defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do. And the government was willing. Unfortunately, we didn't get the funding we needed from organizations in the U.S. and Europe, which we were depending on, and we couldn't continue. But we approached the government again and, explained that we would like to try to get funding within the country to work with them and see if they can work with us. And so we're in the process of trying to do that in the country. And so what I'm beginning to understand or realize is that depending on organizations elsewhere for funding is a big problem, and so we're trying to do it within the country, try to find people and convince people. And that's what I was saying earlier. We're trying to find ways to convince organizations, people within the country to become members and be interested in what we're doing, and so that we can get funding from them and do the work that we need to convince the government to change their ways. So that's just one example out of many.
Do you know, or anybody in the group, when you talk about the abuse of working animals like donkeys, we face the same problem in my region and same exact scenario, and I am mystified. I wonder what your feelings are about why people will destroy their own economic interests by reducing the lifespan of their donkeys to 2 years or 3 years when by abuse. It's a mystery to me. I've talked to hundreds of donkey owners and tried to persuade, cry, scream, physically hit, pay money to, bribe. I have tried everything to stop hobbling and overloading, because I have a lifetime care of 40 or 50 donkeys that are all just disabled from these practices. And I do not understand the mental disorder that causes people to not learn that it isn't even in their economic interests to damage their means of their production in that way. Do you have any insight about
Well, I don't know about where you were.
It doesn't have to go to the same.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is in Africa, at least in where I work, it's absolutely the main reason is ignorance.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, I go to try to teach, but not successful.
Erica, what you're looking at immediate gain, what you're talking about long term, they cannot foresee that. They just want to get it.
Can I answer that? No, I think there's no shortage of products. If one goes, there are plenty others. And there are plenty available for abuse. And donkeys are not Indian animals, nobody's really maybe are. But there's
But the other reason is that, I don't know who said this, is the other problem is these people are so poor themselves. They depend so much on these animals that they cannot afford, okay, to feed them, to give them water, properly, to shelter them, to do whatever you and I think is necessary to prolong their lives. I know, but they're immediate.
They do if they purchase their next donkey, though. They do. It's not economically, it doesn't balance in their favor, even to dispose of the donkeys and acquire new ones. We have to linger on that subject, but they cannot, are you saying that they are just too ignorant to comprehend the simplest
No, it's not. Ignorance is one of the major factors, but the other one is the fact that the immediate need takes precedence over the long-term benefits of taking care of them. I really think that is a big factor. In Ethiopia, that's a huge factor because their immediate need is, without that donkey, they cannot survive. Period.
I know, but they're disposing. Okay, yes, I feel their immediate needs would be better taken care of by having
they're not thinking logically.
They can't survive logically. And everybody is
Only one day at a time. They don't think.
It's a matter of money. It's an issue of economics. They really can't.
But if they can eat monkeys, can't they eat dogs?
I'm sorry?
If they can eat monkeys, don't they eat dogs? Like, why euthanize dogs and then kill monkeys, treat them like...
Well, you see, we're talking about different regions. Like, for example, in areas where monkeys are eaten, they don't dump the dogs are not things that they would eat. So, like, for example, the only place I know of in Sub-Saharan Africa where they eat dogs is Nigeria. Everywhere else they don't. In Ethiopia, there is no way anybody will eat a dog, no matter how hungry they are. They won't. And bushmeat, for example, in Ethiopia is not an issue, but in the Congo it is. So, it depends on the area, the cultural norms in one area is different, and what's normal to eat in one area is different in another. Yeah, it's a big problem. Like the monkeys, for example, in the Congo Basin, they're supposed to be rare animals, as far as the taste is concerned. So that's why they're very special and they cost a lot of money. But dogs, in that area, dogs are not eaten, so culturally they won't touch them.
I think, what she was talking about, what you were saying, it's like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Only when certain basic needs of people are met or fulfilled, can they even think about something other than themselves.
I know, in a way, that, I don't need to get on the soapbox, but I'm sort of sick of hearing the word ignorance, because I think my father's wasn't ignorant, he ate meat. It's not always ignorance, it's not always poverty, it's that they don't give a shit what happens. And I don't know how do we get the key. All these sessions are valuable in reminding us about the scale and scope of the problem. And the techniques trying to use of wiggling and talking nice, except for
honestly,
it's not even working.
In the case of donkeys and what we're talking about, what will take care of it is being removed, basically coming out of poverty. When their lives improves,
No, but I'm saying my father
But
was
something,
out of
I know,
pocket, he still didn't care.
I know, but not caring, okay, not caring, but you see, the thing is, I think she has a really good point. As your economic situation gets better, your educational capacity, your ability to absorb information that is foreign to you improves. When you're struggling for survival, you know, talking about morality and ethics just doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's the challenge we face.
But my question is, like, okay, they're struggling for survival. Will they really listen to veganism?
If you are, well, okay, that's a good question. That's a good question. In the cities, in the major cities, yes, it will work. In rural parts, it may not. The good thing about the rural parts, at least in Ethiopia, is that there is no meat. Because they're too poor, so they basically eat dirt. So that issue is not a major problem. But in the cities, in the bigger cities, larger cities where there's more disposable income, approaching veganism from a health point of view works. It definitely works. I've seen it happen.
Can I ask you a question? Africa is a big continent. Is each country dealing with things on their own, or is there any kind of pan-African plan to legislate for animal issues, or each of these countries is dealing with their own problems? How is this?
Mostly, when it comes to factory farming, for example, there is a Pan-African plan that, I went to a conference 2 years ago in Kenya where ANAL, the African Network for Animal Protection, was organized a conference, and we had a discussion about having a Pan-African approach, to have one voice to approach FAO and organizations like that. In fact, that's what I was saying earlier. IFA is one of the organizations that is planning to work with HSI to approach FAO, because what HSI is finding out is when they go to FAO says, you're a Western organization, we're an African organization. So they're asking organizations, they approached my organization, and I'm sure they've approached other organizations to start working together.
Do you have in Ethiopia, for instance, at least an act for prevention?
No, there is not. There is not.
Or is there something in your constitution or anything that says it's illegal or it's inhuman or
No. In Ethiopia, no. But there are countries that do have. Kenya has it. Even Eritrea has it. So there are countries that do have laws. Ethiopia doesn't. But like I said earlier, we're working with other organizations, with Donkey Sanctuary in the UK and SPANA and a few other organizations to approach the Ethiopian government, the parliament, to adopt.
So there is nothing called illegality.
They can do anything you want with that.
Nothing. Yeah, if you do anything you want, you can't be penalized, punished for anything.
No.
Because your legal
Legally,
work
no.
doesn't.
Legally, no. As far as I know,
But can you not? Isn't that where you ought to begin your work to change legislation?
Yes,
to bring in laws?
Yes, ma'am. And we're trying. That's like I said earlier. We are working with organizations that are already working in Kenya to basically present to the parliament our version of what needs to be done, and it's up to the government to accept it. The paperwork is being done as we speak, but it hasn't happened yet. It takes a long time. Bureaucracy is ridiculous, as you can imagine, and there's a lot of resistance. And see, the problem again is because a lot of the public isn't aware, and that's where I think my organization can help, is by educating the public and getting them on our side, we have a better chance of approaching the politicians.
With pressure.
Yes, that's the only way, because right now, I think the last time I talked about this with the Donkey Sanctuary, the executive director in Ethiopia, she told me that it's languishing in parliament, the paperwork is, because they have no urgency to do anything about it, because it's basically a couple of Western-based organizations who are pushing this, and not the locals. And so an organization like ours has to educate the population, organize groups to create organizations within the capital city to to then present their views.
How many countries in Africa do you think will have legal bans on cruelty? I mean, would you say just 2 or 3 countries, or?
I think more than 2 or 3, but not much more than that. I honestly, I don't know.
So you can pretty much do anything you want.
Yes, ma'am. And it's being done. It's being done every day.
Yes, but at least we can arrest. At least
You have laws.
I
You see, there's a big difference between having the laws on the book and, you know,
I mean,
which to me,
you can at
it's
least
huge.
go to a police station
Absolutely.
and tell the cop to arrest this guy. At least you have legal something.
You try that in Ethiopia, and the guy will arrest you.
You can't arrest, you can do anything you want. You can disembowel an animal in front of 10 people and nobody
Now, they, in Ethiopia, during religious festivals, they will, in broad daylight, in the middle of the street, will cut, you know, cows to pieces. You'll see it right on the streets.
Yeah, they do it in Nepal also.
No, but in Nepal, it's more a ritual, sacrificial kind of stuff.
So I think what I'm hearing from you, I mean, of course, we won't have an issue here because our implementation is very poor. We have laws, but our implementation is really, really poor. But at least, I think we may have even ahead in terms of at least having some laws.
You don't have to convince me of that. To me, getting to where you are is a dream, where India is. No, I'm serious. I mean, that's the honest truth. You know, once we get to that stage, then we can worry about implementation. But we can't even talk about that because there are no laws.
Sometimes I feel that none of us have examined, and as a physician, I'm sure you've got some specialized knowledge. We haven't even contemplated deeply enough. What is this darkness and evil within us that helps the human species, enable the human species to commit these atrocities in every single country? As soon as the back is turned to an authority, or even with the full view of the authority, that we are doing this what for us seems strange. And when the producer was talking about that we have the eyes to see the suffering, we have the eyes to see the animals, and we have the eyes to care about sentience. You can tell many people that this has sentience, and that doesn't make any difference about whether they want to budget it. They know that it has sentience fully. Someday, I want us to have a session that just tries to devote whatever it takes to coming up with an understanding of the human heart that explains this violent and indifferent and aggressive and horrendous capacity for inflicting cruelty on other people and other kids and other until we figure that out, we are not going to get there. It's not enough to say a word, and with all respect, I do it all the time myself, to say education is ignorance. It's words. I don't think we have examined the mind closely enough to understand where is the key. Why are we different? Why are this little 2% of the population different? What genetic thing has happened in us, or what explosion of insight has happened in us, so we can figure out why we changed? Maybe we can figure out a way. It isn't clear to me that our reasonings and fact sharing are getting us where we need to go.
Well, it's, you know, scientists have shown that 15% of any population anywhere on the planet will have a compassionate tendency.
Just 15%.
15%. That's what my understanding is. 15%, and that's. This is
1.5.
No, 1.5. This is the 1.5 you
But I
see.
think the book that explains this nicely is the World Peace Diet. Like how did they come to where we are and why are we doing this? It explains that.
But I think the problems have also been escalated because of today's consumer philosophy.
You know, they want to repeat it. They have war, every civilization, every culture, every
Historical
historical
silence.
And the historic moment has been a bloodbath.
Yes, but we're talking about scale now. We're talking about scale.
There was a magnificent scale in the Mayan aspect. Babylonian, every single crusade, every single moment in history is filled with people killing each other and animals. How can we together? I don't think you deserve yours. A very special story about your family is huge.
I don't think there's a solution. I think as a species we are an aberration. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. We are an aberration. There's a genetic mutation at some point, and we've evolved to being what one of my friends call us Homo sapiens.
You're talking about
Homo sapiens.
Maybe what we need is some kind of soul session where we just hunker down and say, okay, somehow there are a few people that see that that's what we are. Now, what are we going to do to save ourselves?
But see, you focus on animal issues. I see both sides of it, and I see the suffering, human suffering. And when I go to Ethiopia, and I go to a 5-star hotel once in a while, and you see people spending $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 Ethiopian money, while not even a mile out. There are people who are starving. So, I don't ask those kind of questions because if I do, I'll commit suicide. There's something really dark in human nature that we can't change. We're just going to ameliorate it, try our best.
I think we are able to compartmentalize evil and good, whereas animals don't, because they work for instinct, not rational thinking. It is a flow, it's a seamless flow where they're not dividing. We are dividing because we have this awful thing called the brain, and we are dividing between, good and evil, which we can do that. They can't, because they are flowing in a much more natural, instinctive, beautiful way.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. Here, we're a mutation. That's what I meant by that. We're a mutation where we evolved the brain that can process these kind of or every other kind of the defense mechanisms we use, rationalization, compartmentalization, projection, all of these mental processes. Fragmentation. Yeah, all of these processes are meant to keep us from seeing the reality. And the problem is, I think, genetically, we are a mutation, and nothing's going to change that. So, your soul searching is, it's going to.
But I think, with all due respect,
but I think it must be for all of us. I mean, I wonder if I'm not arguing with you at all. I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I think each and every one of us is doing. I think we cannot move that boulder over the hill or the mutation, but we can chip away a little part of it and make whatever we do is good for
See, and for me, if it wasn't for the fact that, just even saving one life is important, and that is for that life, whether it's a dog or a human being, it's important. If I didn't believe in that, I wouldn't be doing this. Because other than that, to really think that I can change, or any one of us can change how we humans do things, is a process.
Okay, can I just add to this that genetic mutation that you talk about, yes, it exists. We are Homo sapiens. But I think there's something which sages and spiritual teachers and wise people have taught us, is that when you adopt a kind of spiritual approach to life, you do reduce separation. Separation is reduced, and you do see oneness in all, and that is basically what is meant by enlightenment, and that is what people are encouraged to do. But I think if we just rest on this fact that yes, we are genetically deficient, we can do this, then that is hopelessness. But if we are going to overcome that and try and look for a non-separation, which we practice, but consciously.
I live in a spiritual community, and I just want to tell you something that happened yesterday. One lady called me and she said, can you help me because there are these puppies that have been locked away from the mother and they're going to die. And then in the night she sent me an email, an SMS saying they killed the puppy. Okay. And the mother is full of milk now, what can I do? But that same person is consuming milk and cheese in a spiritual community, not understanding that cows are separated from their calves in the same way as dogs were separated from the puppies. So it's like, how do you begin? You know?
No, that's really, you've got to tell.
So, but what I mean is that's there, even in the animal community, everybody doesn't understand it, right? They may be rescuing puppies or keeping the puppies with their mothers and consuming milk and not making the connection between cows and their calves. So, let's start with us first.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, we have to transform ourselves, transform anything.
and even the best of us have a lot to bring.
I don't think even that will change. I mean, a lot of the spiritual traditions and Buddhism, they're the cattle issue, the milk issue, but they continue. They have to give reasons to justify what they're doing.
But there are levels of understanding. You've got to work towards that. If you sit back and say, okay, we are okay, there's nothing we can do.
No, it's not that.
Then it's really
We're not saying that's the philosophy I have. I'm going to do the best I can. At the end of my life, I can look back and say I tried. But I know deep down, it's not going to be. And I don't think any organization on this planet will make it. Because as human beings, deep down, we are.
We can just do the best we can because we don't know anything else to do.
Yes, I think you said that really well. And that is where we're at. It's just we have to live our lives righteously without the expectation.
And keep doing exactly. Thank you. That's exactly right. Do what's right. When you go to bed at night and you lay your head on the pillow and say, I've done my best. That's all I say.
I think that I had my nervous breakdown on word on and I won't say everybody. I haven't read it, but I just think that the story is so vivid and so bleak and so universal that it reminded me that I needed to hear it from you. Just one of them, not just. If all your mind is only able to achieve that, it is 100% worth it.
Honestly, that's the only reason I survived. Otherwise, I would have given up. One of the philosophers said, the only thing left to contemplate is suicide, and that I will not. What was his name? Algerian philosopher.
And then I think we keep the last 15 to 20 minutes for any kind of interaction. But just before this meeting, I'd like to say that around April 2010, there was a call put out on Fiapo Global News that the whole issue of cows eating plastic bags and dying is an issue that is not, it's sort of missed people's attention as an absolute act of cruelty born out of animals, and this is also a tool of cruelty and this needs to be addressed. So a few of us came together, made a small team, called ourselves a Plastic Cow Team, and we are Clementine from Karna, who's one of the collaborators making the film. There's Philip from Australia. There's Pradeep from BSCCA in Visakhapatnam, and myself. And Romila sitting here from Karna, so we consider you as part of the Plastic Cow Team. So together we came
cows in India. And so we're taking it one step at a time. We have divided our campaign into two. One is the case, which I'm going to give you a little details about the tools we can use. For those, the basic purpose of doing this little workshop here is to start chapters, plastic cow campaign chapters in various parts of India, and to be able to be conversant with what is available to us to fight this problem. So I'm going to take that as the next step. But first I'll start with the film, so we can. Then Rohit will talk a little about how he started this in Jaipur, and I'm going to request Erica, because she also has done a few screenings in Udaipur, and is the ripple effect of the beginnings of this chapter work in this plastic cow campaign. So let's start with the film first. Okay? Can you put off the lights and then start?
Any temple dedicated to Lord Shiva must also have Nandi, his mount and the universal bull. ways perhaps, the cow is like the river Ganges for Hindus.
आज गंगा गाय गया और गीता इसके अतिरिक्त हिंदू धर्म को कोई नहीं ढूंढ सकता, चाहे हम ढूंढना चाहें और चाहे कोई विदेशी ढूंढना चाहे। तो इसी के पशु में ही एक हिंदू धर्म की विशेष परिभाषा या व्याख्या की जा सकती है, जिसमें गाय का प्रमुख स्थान है।
Much like the Ganga, the cow is seen as pure. She blesses. She nourishes. She heals. She is holy.
गाय के बारे में जो हिंदू परसेप्शन है उसके अनुसार गाय व्यक्ति के धार्मिक अभ्युदय और निश्रेयस दोनों की सिद्धि के लिए आवश्यक है, अपरिहार्य है।
And that perhaps also lies the problem. Because like the Ganga, the cow too is now a story of regret. Like the Ganga, the reverence for the cow also is now largely theoretical, never translating into action, or at least not often enough. From an agrarian society that once largely depended on its cows, the relationship has now transformed into a more need-based one. Cows are still an integral part of many Hindu rituals, which remain incomplete without a prayer or offering to the cow. But on most other occasions, she is left to her own devices. And it's precisely because its status as something sacred remains unchanged that the dichotomy between the community's belief and action is baffling.
सेवा भावना खत्म हो गई है। लोग अपनी माताओं को जिनके गर्भ से पैदा होते हैं उनको रखने के लिए जगह नहीं देते हैं, तो गाय को कहां से देंगे? ये उनका एक धार्मिक गिरावट है।
At one level, one could say it's a form of hypocrisy. But at another level, these are all the sort of glorious paradoxes that are a part of religious belief, that you have to be able to sustain contradictory ideas.
Unlike the Ganga, however, apathy towards the cow can hardly be explained away as a case of being out of sight and therefore the mind. Because cows can be seen everywhere in India, as visible in urban and semi-urban areas as they are in the rural areas. In fact, a depiction of the chaotic traffic in Indian cities would hardly ring true if it did not include a few cows walking about in the middle of the road, obstructing free movement of vehicles. And yet, the cow, otherwise so sacred that killing it is a serious criminal offence in much of India, not to mention the moral outrage it is bound to cause, continues to suffer cruelties and indignities every day. Accustomed to luxuriously grazing for long hours in lush green pastures for much of the day, and then being pampered and fed some more at home in the evenings, the animal whose dietary habit of chewing the cud is now a commonly used analogy for lazy contemplation, has been reduced to forage for food in garbage dumps, like any other stray animal. A scavenger, looking for sustenance in the community garbage dumps and landfill sites. Where recycling and near zero waste was the norm, we've transformed into one that generates a frightening amount of waste every day. Tons upon tons of biodegradable and non-degradable waste. Not to mention equally colossal amounts of e-waste. Quite literally, we are choking ourselves and everything else on this planet to death.
Solid waste management is a big challenge in today's scenario. But it all depends on the consumption pattern of individuals. As you consume more, as you are living in urban societies, then your pattern of living also changes, and then your life, becomes part and parcel of plastic scenario.
Or simply a consequence of our choices? Perhaps it's both. But either way, it points to a lifestyle that is now deeply and completely dependent on the single largest contributor to the problem of non-degradable waste. The villain of the piece, plastic. Preservation, transportation or packaging. Almost every product in the market today uses plastic in some form. It is, in fact, an inseparable part of life today.
It's more like a cat with 9 lives. It is something that can be used over and over again, as a result of which it conserves resources.
The 9 lives they have, like the proverbial cat, is what makes these thin plastic bags an environmental nightmare. Banned they may be, but like stray cows on city roads, plastic bags can also be found just about everywhere in India. It's tempting to think that things were a little different and perhaps better for cows until a few years ago, when a large part of the population still sourced its milk from local dairies. But with the launch of Operation Flood in 1970, small dairy owners, especially in cities, found themselves under pressure and in an unequal competition with a mechanized behemoth that was churning out thousands of liters of milk to supply around the country. Thanks to rapid development and urbanization, there was shrinkage in the physical space available to run dairies. As dairy owners struggled to maintain a steady output of milk production to retain their customers, hygiene, quality, and animal rights were slowly given the short shrift.
इतना बदला रहता है ये लोग कभी भी ये लोग नहीं साफ करते सुबह में दिखने का 6 बजे आके पहले ये लोग दूध निकलते बाद में ये लोग साफ करने को बैठते दूध निकलते टाइम साफ करने का और बैठने का तो कभी ये लोग नहीं साफ करते और एक बार ये गाय का एक कुछ रहता है एक बार इसका मुंह रहता है गाय का हम लोग को छाना आने पर इतना मुश्किल होता है अच्छा कपड़ा डाल के जाएंगे कुछ करेगा तो हम लोग को वापस करते जाना पड़ता है चेंज करने
Besides denying cows their share of the milk and pumping cattle with oxytocin and other hormonal injections to induce greater supply of milk, dairy owners who are now often forced to operate from cramped cubby holes let the cattle out on city streets to fend for themselves.
हमारे काम के नहीं है obviously देखो ये हमारे काम में नहीं है
The presence of cows on the street is
despite a lot of attempts to try and remove the dairies, which happen to be illegal in many cases, and to get the cows out, has failed because of the ways in which the dairies are also an integral part of the urban economy. And municipal officials, electricity officials, all of them actually allow the dairies to survive by taking bribes from them. So as long as there is this nexus of illegal connections between people, and as long as people still want to drink milk straight from the cow or buffalo rather than buying it from the polythene bag, I think cows will continue to roam the streets. It's not the ideal way of dealing with our streets or with cows. But I think the fact that there should make us become more conscious of the fact that there is something that's an issue here, something that's contested, and that we think about it.
And address it we must. Unfortunately, however, repeated attempts to discuss the matter with the authorities, be it the relevant ministries of the central government, the government of Delhi, Animal Welfare Division, Central Pollution Control Board, or even the Municipal Corporation of Delhi, an area where the problem of wandering cows is all too apparent, have been stonewalled. In the Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh, however, the municipality has been more proactive.
Mostly these days we find most of the animals, especially cows, they are consuming plastic in a very huge extent. So that's again harming the animals. Also, we are finding them everywhere in almost on main roads. So that's why we are trying to shift them to places where they can be kept safely. In the last 3 months, we have almost shifted 50 truckloads of cows from Bhutan. Majority of them went to Puttaparthi Institute.
The institute in Puttaparthi is Karuna Society for Animals and Nature. Run by Clementine Paws at Karuna, true to the spirit of compassion it's been named after, they not only look after approximately 500 animals at their home, but also offer free medical care and shelter for sick, injured, and abused animals. With support from the Kindness Trust Australia, they also run a wildlife centre. When a cow from the first lot of animals that Karuna Society received from the Anantapur municipality in 2010 died, Clementine and her colleagues realized just how real the danger from plastic is.
Very strange. There is a difference between knowing and knowing. Many years ago, we had a buffalo that died, and we did post-mortem, and it had a lot of plastic. So it means we have seen it. It never entered our mind that it would be a problem for more animals. And then to our horror, one after the other, I think within quite a short time, 4 animals died. So we did post-mortem on all 4, and it was all plastic.
In an independent and now published study conducted at Anuvas, or the Tamil Nadu Veterinary and Animal Sciences University, the human liquor and milk from stray cattle was tested for PCBs and other toxins.
What we did is that we undertook the extraction as per international norms. We could detect that there are maybe PCBs, there are 70 to 80 PCBs are available, metabolites. We took up 145 and 156. They are supposed to be carcinogens. Of the 30 to 40 samples were positive for these compounds, they were of the violative nature, which is above the international norms. So there is a real threat to the livestock because it affects the human microflora status. Then another thing is that the public health aspect regarding the milk. Such quantities of PCB contamination when consumed can lead to a lot of detrimental effects.
Any cattle you take in the city, there will be some quantity of plastics. And as the age advances, the chances of accumulating plastics in huge quantities, even to the capacity of 50 kilos. We have done surgeries in our college
being found inside cows during surgeries. Is it not staggering that all the big fat cows we see on the streets are so not because they are well fed, but simply because they are bloated with all the plastic waste they ingest at garbage dumps?
उनसे फायदा उठाने वाले लोग होते हैं, उनको नुकसान पहुंचाने वाले लोग होते हैं, देखभाल कोई नहीं करता। उनकी हालत तो जितने भी जानवर रोड पर नजर आते हैं, सबसे बुरी हालत गाय की।
What the professors at Tanuvas have to say next is just as shocking.
If you go to the slaughterhouse also, you will find 100% of the cattle which is slaughtered will have plastics in there. 100%.
In case of slaughterhouses there, I was looking at slaughter for me. So whenever students go there, they find almost around more than 90% of the animals slaughtered have some amount of plastic or other in their animal.
If that is the state of meat coming out of government-run slaughterhouses, it boggles the mind to think what the situation must be with animals that are slaughtered illegally, in shops and on the sly.
Many people know about the plastic and that it's ending up in animals. But the awareness of it, the consciousness of it, that only came to me when I actually saw the surgery, and when one after the other was so full of plastic, not one exception, and only then my mind switched and I understood that every animal we see on the road is full of plastic. And then it was like an explosion in my awareness. My God, this is too much. This is so huge, this problem. This is not just a cow or a buffalo that is dying. No, this is a major, major problem.
And from the time realization of the problem first set in, almost 50 humaneotomies or surgeries have been performed at Karma, all of which have been supported by the Kindness Trust. Dr. Narendra Reddy, the veterinary surgeon, who has been involved with most of these surgeries, is ready to perform another one today.
It's having a plastic weight.
While the cow is being washed and prepared for the surgery, let's try and understand why plastic is so bad for cows and how a cow's digestive system works.
Cow's stomach has got 4 parts. The first one is called the rumen, and second one is called the reticulum, and third one is called the omasum, and the fourth one is called abomasum, which is a true stomach like what we eat. Basically, 4 compartments are differently placed. So from the first compartment, when it goes to the second compartment, it needs to be finer particles, which is not possible to break down the plastics into finer particles because there is no system which can break them into, set them into smaller pieces which can go into the second compartment. So they get stuck in the fourth stomach itself throughout the life. There is no way of it going into the second, third and fourth. If it goes to the fourth, it can eventually get out. But there is no way it can go out because it is not finely studded.
Open the abdominal muscles, and now I am going to fixation of the rumen to the wall to prevent spillage of ruminal contents into the abdominal cavity. Now we are opening rumen to get into the rumen. It is a lot entangled with each other. We can hard rock-like structure. It is very difficult to remove also. It is whole thing is like a single rock. We have to break it and take it out. To remove that one, we have to break it into small pieces and more than 6-7 years, maybe more than 10 years. All entangled and became a rock. It is only plastic. So entangled into a single piece, it cannot pass through that digestive tract. So if it is a single one, it can pass through that tract. Ruminal content, which is the dirty one. This might be a piece of balloon, a bigger balloon. I think there are some leather piece, I think. What of sand is there?
A little over 4 hours after it began, the surgery is finally over.
Antiseptic and fly repellent spray.
Plastic waste that's been extracted and to check how much it weighs. A practice that Karma Society has diligently followed for all the laboratories it has organized. The total at the end is very complicated. This poor cow has been carrying a shocking 53 kilograms of plastic waste in its stomach. One doesn't even have to be an animal lover to see that this is wrong. This is just plain cruelty. Day in and day out, health experts tell us that we are what we eat. So what does it make cows who, from the evidence of the surgery we've just witnessed, feed largely on plastic? What does it make them if not plastic cows? Plastic cows that do not come with the indestructibility of plastic bags, which, as the plastic industry tells us, have 9 lives. Cows, let's not forget, have only one.
The blood stains are on our hands and on our souls, indelible and fatal. The power relation is inscribed in the Indian heart. It must not be littered with the human detritus which despoils our streets, kills our cows, and poisons our creed.
बहुत ज्यादा हम लोगों को अवेयर होना पड़ेगा कि कहीं भी प्लास्टिक किसी भी तरीके से कहीं पर के सामने ना आए.
The next time we use a plastic bag to dispose our kitchen waste and garbage, it may be a good idea to stop and consider where these bags end up. Choking the drainage and sewage lines, or inside cows and other animals. This is what would normally constitute a happy ending. A patient with a potentially life-threatening condition walking away after a successful surgery. But it isn't quite the end and is far from happy. This cow, Lakshmi, is lucky to have been taken off the road and rescued by Karuna, where she will now spend the rest of her life in a friendly and caring environment. Other animal welfare organizations across the country will do their bit to rescue and rehabilitate many other cows. But what about the hundreds of thousands of other cows that are consuming plastic on the streets across India? Ever wondered why these cows are on the streets in the first place? Where they are exposed to plastic waste and traffic accidents. is because of the demand for milk products and meat. Discarded by dairy owners, the cows that are no longer milking, male calves and bulls, are then ferried illegally and slaughtered for meat. These are just some of the facts that the Plastic Cow Project has discovered.
We feel now this is not an environmental issue alone. This is not a political issue alone. This is actually an animal rights issue.
We should have an adequate law and also enforcement. For that, we need to create a body, for example, a Bureau of Animal Care and Control, which would not only be in charge of licensing of, say, animals, pack animals and performing animals, but also domestic animals, and also enforce various rights of the animal. We have to empower such a body to take action. For example, issue a citation, against an offender, or to impound an animal which has been found to be ill-treated.
There should be a directive from the government or from the Supreme Court or from any responsible agency that animals should not be exposed to the waste that we are producing, because it has become so polluted and dangerous for the lives of animals. And we do not eat plastic garbage out of free will. But the animal is too innocent and it's all eating anything.
We are asking for a total ban of plastic bags as an animal rights issue.
We have to think of ways in which we can empower animals, and banning plastics is a way of keeping cows away from suffering and saying that this is a violation of their basic right to live, eat, breathe, drink, graze as cows should do. We want to address this miserable journey that the cow has from scavenger to plastic to meat to milk to meat and then leather. This is the journey of the Indian cow, and the Indian cow is not holy anymore.
But the people, many of the people don't have that idea. For the eating sheep, that the holy cow has to be holy. They don't have that sense,
Cow is a god.
Cow is a god, says little Vishnu, with all the wide-eyed innocence of the child he says. But very soon, like everything else, his naivete of his wonder years will fade away, and he'll grow up thinking, as the rest of us obviously do, that it's perfectly normal for cows to congregate at garbage dumps to look for food. He will grow up with the completely warped notion that, like all other underprivileged, unfortunate, and unrepresented human beings and animals, it's normal even for a god to depend on garbage for survival. Very soon, like the rest of us, he will also learn not to see.
We had come across a cow which was involved in an accident, and the wala who owns that cow came, and we had some lettuce with us, so we were trying to give it lettuce, and he jokingly laughed and he said, "Don't give her lettuce, give her plastic, she'll eat that. They don't eat lettuce."
There are many cattle we have picked up which have been injured slightly in accidents, and before we can even have them cured, they are dead because of the plastic.
Animals that have died from 30 villages to 70 villages, we did find the plastic bags. Along with the plastic bags, we found bricks, stones, nails, iron pieces. That means they're all tied inside the bag.
There is a very simple solution, and that is animals should have no access to the waste that is being waste and the plastics that is being generated by the human community.
Yes, it's shocking, isn't it? When ordinarily people say cows eat plastic, it kind of skims past our consciousness. But when I personally made a trip to Karna, and I sat through 4.5 hours of surgery, and I saw 53 kilos of plastic, which I myself had seen
I'm very thankful to the organizers of the FIAP conference and also to Madam Rukmini and to the entire team of the plastic company.
I would just thought across my mind, I'm sure you must have, tonight we have the cancer tobacco campaign. You know, of course, this will have to be much concise and physical. You know, in theaters, on television, where somebody in a picture, like somebody like Tata or something, get it, this plastic cow, it has to be done so urgently nationwide that if it can be done as a public awareness campaign, like this taken, polio, then you understand cancer, the tobacco, we know that in cinema halls before. I mean, if it can be really, all theatre comes together.
Or in the interval, which is why a lot of people don't read, and you have a 5 or a 7 minute play because it will force people to look at it.
It should be 3 minutes.
Otherwise, it won't reach their home.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Of course, that's a spot bullet kind of thing. But this is for to give people a larger
No. This is all right, but for them,
as a public.
But we should propagate it that the government should take it out as a gap because it's impossible for an organization, or anybody. We do it in our individual level.
But the government taking it upon itself as a campaign. You see, the government are the defaulters. They are bending to the plastic lobby. One thing, plastic. When the minute just recently, just before coming here last month, there was a ban on plastic in Delhi. It's opposed tooth and nail by the plastic lobby. Okay? But the court has to still pass its judgment. So this is. I just want to tell you the issues here.
Secondly, the garbage system is exposed to fault it is the government. Taking up the work. But even
now there are two things that need to be done.
We are also responsible in educating the garbage waste.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The key thing is to have a garbage disposal system which does not involve plastic bags. Now what's happening is people are collecting plastic bags. Householders are collecting plastic bags. They're only too happy to get plastic bags so that they can wrap up their plastic and throw it in the garbage. Right? Now these poor cows, they cannot unknot.
That is the worst.
You see, whereas cats and dogs and canines, they can rip it apart and they can handle it. But ruminating animals, they cannot do it. They have to swallow the plastic in order to get.
And the worst thing is to put vegetables without.
So now we have also seen a link between these people, the plastic eating cow owners. They're all milking. Now what happens is typically the cows, somebody buys a cow for a very cheap price. Okay? Then they start milking, right? You don't have to pay anything, just let the cow loose. It's a free, low maintenance project.
In the urban areas, that is a huge nuisance. But in Bombay, when the plastic bags were banned locally, we saw 90% of, I would say it was 90% efficient. We had entire zones, which are, the typical market area like in Chennai or Coimbatore. If Coimbatore decided to go plastic-free, which is their APMC or their large market, that's what happened in Bombay. Vegetable vendors, they would say, "Bhaiya, teli mein dal ke do. No plastic, madam, bring your own bag." But then what happens is, you are right, the corporation doesn't have a system for me to dispose of those collected bags. I don't use plastic to dispose my waste because my society sends me those designated municipal corporation black garbage bin bags. My garbage is collected by a compactor and my garbage goes to a landfill. It does not go to the exposed garbage bin. The cows that get exposed to plastic are the ones who are in areas where there are exposed bins. In cities like Mumbai, where there is pressure from ALMs or area locality management, exposed garbage bins have been done. We don't have exposed garbage bins. Mumbai. We are talking about Mumbai. 70% of this problem actually is peripherally. One second. I already point out. Sorry. No.
Can you explain how we are tackling this next?
Should we finish the screening and then come on screening?
Then you open the floor for no, the screening is open, but before we open the floor, I just want to tell you how we are, how we come together, what we are doing, and how we can all participate in making this a movement, or what I call creating chapters in different places.
In that case, Ruki, I have got just one suggestion. If I try to take this to my area, which is a suburban area, I will need to get this translated into my local language.
I don't know that's happening.
Oh,
I got Hindi. I've got Hindi. I've got 10 Hindi right now for distribution. But before we do all that, that's the action plan. But I just want to tell you, we separated this. We decided that just an outreach alone is not enough. We decided that we should file a case in the Supreme Court. We went to now what we see here is the plastic issue connected to a much larger issue, which is a milk, meat, leather, etc. And we all know slaughterhouses, goshalas are just transition points for the butcher mafia or the leather mafia or whatever. So we're not even going there right now. We are going to have a laser beam focus of, you see this issue is bad enough, right, of cows with plastic. Because it's a personal assault on their bodies, and they suffer, they grind their teeth with pain, and they just lie down and die. Now how many rheumatologies? Nobody is doing rheumatologies except barring Karuna and maybe one or two other experimental colleges, but very, very, very few. Right? So all these cows, every single cow that's wandering on the roads is full of plastic. So they just grind their teeth, lie down and die. So we're going to focus on this in the case. So what we've done is, we filed a case as an animal rights issue. We said, there's much talk about plastics destroying the environment, rivers, forests, etc., etc. Yes, but we explicitly filed this case in the Supreme Court. Why Supreme Court? Because it concerns every state. Right? We filed it in the Supreme Court as an animal rights issue, and you'll be happy to know I have the court order here, which is not a judgment, it's just that our case has been admitted, which itself is a big thing. That it has been admitted by the Supreme Court, we've been heard, and then it has sent out what you call dusties. We asked every single state to respond to this problem, including the Animal Welfare Board of India, and I'm sorry to say, there has been not a single response. It has been including the AWBI, and I've got the letter which I personally have written as a procedural thing to the AWBI, to the various state governments and municipalities. So there are two culprits here. Of course, the largest culprit is us, the way we dispose our garbage, but we have two other bodies that we need to fight, which is, one is the municipalities, which we have to take on, and we have to take on the AWBI as well, personally responsible for this act of negligence. It is an act of negligence leading to an act of cruelty. So we've got to put pressure on the AWBI, we've got to put pressure on the municipalities to make sure that we have better disposal systems, and then we tackle the issue of why are these cows there in the first place? Why are these cows there in the first place? Their illegal carriers are banned. I just want to read out to you. You'll be interested because many of you work with litigation and many of you work with various things. So how we file this? If you give me 5 minutes, there are 3 respondents who have been filed this against. We have filed 6 people who have filed, right? We filed this against the Union of India through the Union Ministry of Environment and Forest Animal Welfare Division. They are one of the respondents. State governments through their respective animal husbandry departments. Okay? AWBI, which is a statutory body established under the Prevention of Cruelties Act 1960. These are the 3 people we have filed against. This was filed animal rights issue. How? A. Fundamental rights are violated. Government inaction and neglect causing a violation of the right to life guaranteed under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. So we have a violation of the fundamental right to life. Who's the lawyer who's handling Prakash Venugopal is our counsel in this over, but we have Shyam Diwan, who's a very sort of well-known lawyer in the environment area, and he's our chief counsel. He's the one who's doing it. Then, B. These are the terms under which we have filed, okay? B. According to the enactment of rules for disposal of municipal waste. I'm going to quote this. Stray animals, it's there, we just need to fight for it. Stray animals shall not be allowed to move around waste storage facilities, in other words, garbage. They cannot, it's there in the municipal rules. Alright? So we have these things going for us.
Ruby, I have a question. Do you think that the right angle to suggest that cows shouldn't be allowed to wander when the alternative is not the elimination of cows, but the eternal chaining?
That's right, factory farms.
No, I agree with that, Erika. We come to that. Let me just go through these parts of this case. Okay? Then we come to how we should deal with the animals themselves. The next thing. Now, this PIL, if you find it as a PIL, petitioners seek to discharge fundamental duty under Article 51A, which has been quoted many times, which we pat ourselves on the back for every now and then. We congratulate ourselves. I mean, we've seen the last gentleman who presented the situation in Ethiopia. They don't even have a law. They don't have a single law. Or at least we have laws. But what happens here? Under Article 51A, the Constitution of India requires every citizen of India to have compassion for living creatures. Okay? The PIL says no proper segregation of plastic waste resulting in extreme cruelty and pain to animals. Now, there are specific rules, and I have those rules here with me. There are specific rules framed for municipal solid waste disposal under the municipal waste handling rules. They are there. We can use these. I'm saying we have all these rules which we can use. Okay. Now, of course, we know the PCBs. We know the situation of the PCBs and the toxins. So that's not that it should be an emphatic direction, but that's the milk we are getting. That's in the milk. That's in the milk. And the meat. The PCBs are in milk and meat, but this is not just to say that this is an argument between meat, right? But this is an argument for a strategy that we can say that it also impacts dunya. What is sought in the PIL? 1. Eliminate interface between plastic bags and plastic waste and animals. Now when I say cows, it also means bulls. It also means other animals who have access and are likely to eat,
including dogs.
Dogs are not affected by this because they one can care. Secondly, their intestinal tract is not so complete.
No, but the way you rent out eliminates the interface between plastic bags and animals.
And animals, yes. When you say animals, it means animals in general, in particular cows. Okay? And the prohibition of certain types of plastic bags. We also have that. We also have, there's a ban, it's called 40 micron plastic bag, but I'm sorry to say that cows eat even thicker bags. I mean, they eat boris. You know, if there is some vegetable residues there, they eat boris, they eat sacks, plastic sacks, they eat that. I have seen in the cow that I saw little bits of leather, nails, thorns, everything coming out. Can you imagine it just pierces there inside our brain? And then we have the segregation of plastic waste, prevention of waste disposal through plastic bags. Okay? Now I just want to, if you permit me to do this, the statutory provisions. Quickly I'll say that, then we go to how we can all act to change this. And I will request Erika to tell us a little bit about what happened in her
this.
Very good. We could go to the next, if possible, because if you could have copies.
Yes, I will send everybody copies, but I want to just do one very important thing.
Yeah.
One very important thing, wherein we tell the Animal Welfare Board of India under their function. I'm going to read that bit out to you, so that we tell this body that they have functions too which they need to perform. Okay? It describes, the 1960 PCA Act describes the functions of AWEI. The functions of the board shall be A, to keep the law in force in India with the prevention of cruelty to animals under constant study and advise the government on the amendments to be undertaken to any such law provided for animals. One second. Right? So there are, I don't want to read all of them, but basically they are accountable, and the municipality. I'm just going to tell you on page 24 of our draft. This is the draft that we gave to the board. On page 24, the municipal solid waste management handling rules. It says Rule 5 provides that the Secretary of the Department of Urban Development in the concerned state of Union Territory shall have the overall responsibility for enforcement of the provisions of the municipal solid waste rules and networks. So involve your Chief Secretary, Secretary of Urban Development. These are the people to be contacted. What I'm saying is we have rules. We have two rules, the municipal solid waste management and handling rules, and we have the plastic waste management and handling rules. We have these two rules which we can use. So I'm saying use the tools we have.
When was this case filed?
This case was filed in April 2011.
And he's admitted when? Admitted?
Admitted, I'll tell you exactly. And I have
approximately.
Here's what I think we should do, and really doing the same. The best testimony to the impact is that the gentleman who was talking to us about the Ethiopian animals, well, I don't know if you can see him out there, he broke down and saw. And that's what we see when we show it also. We show it on the Sunday Animal Brothers meeting. And that's probably what you've seen. We know it has this tremendous emotional impact. It sounds like what Libby is saying to do is focus on pressuring the waste management body in your local area to do their job cleaning up the plastic. Is that not really, or maybe just guidance? If you have to tell us to do one thing and do when we stream the videos to as many people as we can, what's the one thing you want us to do?
Okay, that's exactly what I'm saying, Erika. We know that there are many larger issues behind this. We know that this is only one end of the chain. This is just the start of the chain. We know that this is because of many other issues.
Let's go back. What is the one thing? Tell us.
When this meeting is thing, what is the final message that
the final message do? One is discourage, do not encourage plastic bags. Do not encourage. That's the final because we will have this movie without plastic bags. Do not encourage plastic bags. Boycott plastic bags. Okay.
Next question. How is my mother going to be disposing of the garbage?
That is where you need to pressure your local councillor, your municipal corporator,
even we should go to the panchayats.
Whatever.
No, that part of it is something else is going to be doing. Like, for example,
I'll just give you a simple thing. I'll tell you what I have done to eliminate plastic in my house. I have just two buckets here. The bucket I put my waste in my kitchen. Instead of taking it down in a plastic bag, I take the whole bucket down and empty it into another bucket. And that bucket is emptied into the lady and taken away. Right? There is no plastic coming out of my house.
I do the same thing. I put it in a crate to make manure out of it.
Right. So one message, clear message, no plastic. No plastic at all. Do not buy. Do not, and Pick up your, I'm talking for children, action plan for
You
children.
should also use aluminium buckets because I think plastic adds up to the environment.
At one level, at our level, we fight the system. But at another level, for children, what can they actually do? They can pick up the plastic. You can have demos. You can have colony. You can have walk around the colony with placards or posters, a silent march, telling them, do not use, go to households. Households are the ones who generate this.
PG plus. Nobody can get the children to do tell their parents. That makes a lot.
Yeah, but have a little procession of children march through colonies with banners saying, telling householders, do not dispose your waste to plastic.
Let's say you reach a point. We've seen and we work extensively with municipal corporations, predominantly in urban areas. So I don't have great experience in rural areas. I don't have experience in Haryana and Rajasthan, which is as bad as it can get anywhere in the country. Segregation of waste. Segregation of waste, people are still willing to do. Where you do your vegetable and fruit fields and your wet waste on one side, and you do your non-empty shampoo bottles and all that on one side. But the essential problem here is the laws are there, everything is there. If I segregated my end, let's say 400 apartments in my block do that. We collect all the plastic bags that have been either by whatever virtue, whether you were shopping, whether someone delivers something to you. See, these days there's home delivery. Very rarely you will see things come in those canvas bags. So they take the canvas bag like Sakari Mandars and Apna Bazaars, where it's become liable, where they're charging obscene money if you want a plastic bag. It's 7 rupees for a 100 micron bag, which is a medium size. What do I do once I have all those plastic bags? The incinerator or the waste facility is at least 70 to 80 kilometers from my house. There is no separate collection mechanism that the municipal corporation in any city, state has in place for taking away my segregated garbage. I'm willing to segregate my end.
To be practical, you made your point good. I think to be practical, you can condense about 1 billion plastic bags into this much size. So smash them together.
How?
I do it every day. I've been doing it for years. You just get a receptacle in your house and just get them in there. And when you've got a whole bunch in there, either bury it. No, I bury it.
No, that is
I'm supposed to do that. I'm just saying, you're asking a practical question. I'm giving you a practical solution. You guys, you can't. Of course, it
won't do it. You see, I will do it.
In your building complex, you can do it.
Just get it changed overnight.
It won't happen overnight. That's what I'm saying.
I must share something with everybody that now you're using plastic bags and plastic disposable bottles. I know Patrick. Patrick is Mila. He uses his bottle, put sand and mud in it to make to cheap construction. Plastic bags are now used instead of bricks. As used for roads also. Yeah, roads for waterproofing of buildings. So they make bricks out of compressed plastic bags.
Is that we have to outsource. So those are what? I think I'd like to maybe talk more.
Dairy who only works with recycling this.
But can we talk about how we can take the project forward?
Can I just say something? That all that you're saying are very pertinent and must be explored at the local level. Who are the people who collect it? You've got to do a little bit of groundwork on this. This is your community problem. You've got to see who will collect it, where can you give it, who's the NGO that's taking up these plastic
Like the most efficient people in Bombay today, sadly, nobody likes and everyone will make a big fuss. So the rat pickers take away all the plastic from open bins and they take it for, they take away all the plastic. All the plastic, including boxes.
So this is
and they take it to plastic compactors like Erika mentioned. So, like Erika said, in Mumbai or in other areas, there are these hubs where plastic waste is compacted. But at the individual level, even if it takes us 12 months to bring about a change, people are looking for alternative. If they see the video and they are moved enough by it to take action or to start taking action, make 20 members in the household take action.
Yes.
See, our unit is small, my unit is near my husband. For me to replicate that action and that mentality in other units, I need to have an alternative. My alternative to not using bags is using
But maybe you don't individually have to have that alternative.
Please, give me a second, hear me. If I give you an alternative today, which says, go vegan, you're still able to eat fruits and vegetables. But if I tell you, don't use bags, you can say, I can use cloth, jute, coir. When I say, don't use bags, I say, what about all the bags that are being generated daily? Where will they go?
That is something. Okay, now that's one minute. Don't ask me where the alternative is. Because I'll tell you, if there is no alternative, let me answer your question. Let me answer that. Let me answer that. If there is no alternative provided by the system, create one. Create You have to create a system which is replicable. One second. That's up to you. Yeah. If you're clever, you make it replicable. Yeah. Right? The bottom line is no plastic. Yeah. You devise ways in which you can do it. Okay. Now, one thing is, we are now going to discuss. My main purpose of showing this movie and coming to this conference was to see whether we can create chapters in India. I really like to call them.
You have one in Jaipur for sure.
Yeah. Now Jaipur, Rohit is also.
So we all part of the
right. So I'm going to ask Rohit very briefly. 5 minutes. Just tell us what.
See, before starting the chapter, we need to know the local problems and local issues which you can address by yourself. It has to be from within you, what you can do within your reach. It's not that we take up all the activities. Now currently how we started is, we started with educational awareness program. And we need groups, our members, like schools, our members, plastic out team members. So these schools show the video to all the people. Wherein we show the video to people talk, maybe say 10 classes. Then we make leaders and those leaders show the movie to all the school students. So that way all schools are covered. Once that is done, these schools become part of our Gandhi program, wherein students adopt a mandi, they make their own paper bags and cloth bags. They go to a mandi, do a Gandhi program, one of our will take over. And whenever a person is buying a bag, they do the Gandhi program to say no to polythene. And they give that cloth bag free of cost to them. And that certainly makes an impact. Creating now after 6 months of launching, we started with lobbying with the department. Lobbying with the department could be for the department's concern. That may take time, it's a long-term thing. It's not you think we ask it's a regular affair, you have to do a follow-up every day. It's not, that is what we are doing. And awareness has to go through, because through our awareness program, we teach them, with the impact assessment program, where you will be shocked to know that 70% of the students came to know that flowers were dying because of plastic only after watching the video.
Yeah, naturally.
70%. Imagine there is regular knowledge of the problem. Second, one more point is not discussed is grassroots conservation. Here what we are taking, to solve the problem, what we are doing. Tomorrow I will use less plastic. See, it's not that you can say no plastic, this is plastic, this is plastic.
Bags.
Yeah.
We are moving to bags.
Yeah, everything bags.
Right now the focus is bags.
Polythene bags. You can wear on polythene bags, you need to change better. So that is where plastic say, you can use it. Polythene bags, reduce. Yeah. And all students take a pledge. That they think they only educate their neighbors, do the same what they want. This problem is there in India. Majority of the household parents in Jaipur, they feed the cow before having their own lunch. So now there is a contradiction, because how they take their plastic is also important. Majority of them take their plastic out in their polythene bags and dump it wherever possible. That has to change. That is local issue I thought. It could be small issues.
That may not be a local issue. It can be addressed through the big Jain munis, Sadhu Maharaja. Yeah. They are opening up to certain ideas. Like we have now changed one certain Jain mandali
who used to use Bharat in their sweets. This year, they have completely stopped all sweets with Bharat. So we could go and buy Kaju Katli and happily distribute them to our staff. So it can be done. Maybe one at a time, but I think it may not be local. It can come from those central Maharajas.
Numerous collaborations we have done. We have tied up with schools, colleges who are our partners in this program. We get volunteers from colleges and schools. Some school volunteers go to other schools. They do the program from college people. This way we do the program. We do it in all. We have our techies doing. They are doing that. We have two people in contract with the Jain Social. So we have Jain Social. Then all the ladies from the Shubha. Everywhere ladies clubs are there. We are getting more students also. Because household say come up.
Ladies are in the area. So one second. I just have a few. One second. Just one second. I've made a small list of things you can do. Okay. We have basically a tool. You can use this tool. The target constituencies are the government municipal bodies in all the states, municipal bodies, ministries of environment and forests in all states, government institutions, planning bodies, example, civil services academy in Missouri or other civil, you get your civil servants, educate your local civil servants, your bureaucrats, okay? Schools, colleges, professional institutions, NGOs and people's movements, resident welfare associations, corporates, urban spaces, streets, slums, malls, parks, government areas, goshalas and small dairies. You can create awareness in all these areas. And the strategy, get the film shown in as many of the above constituencies as possible. Just get this film shown. We're making it in a few languages. We have English, Hindi, Telugu. Now we're trying to get it done in other languages. But if you
if we can get it translated to
take the film, get it subtitled or
subtitled in the local language.
I think it can prepare very innovative campaign materials for display and distribution. Devise innovative methods of protest. You can also use protest, street theatre, processions, example a line of cars with garlands of plastic bags, walking to a mohalla and with a banner or whatever, concerts, etc. You can have a launch event of the Plastic Cow chapter with the press. You call the press and say, we're having an event and it's the Plastic Cow. Call your chief minister, call your chief secretary, whoever it is. Make that person responsible also for this thing. Get animal rights introduced into school curricula, which Vasily is trying to do, and several articles in the press. I mean, these are some of the things that I think we can use practically, Erika, to address this issue, right? How much time do we have? 30 minutes. You have anything to add, Erika, about your streaming in Udaipur and the ripple effects that it has caused?
Just a self-criticism, but I don't think I've been practical enough in diving to people who have seen videos about beyond their own personal consumption of taking these actions. So,
I have a 3-minute clip what Jayanti, one of our team members, has done in Delhi. Now, she asked me at the beginning, we don't have funds, we don't have money to do all this. I said, we don't need any money. Just do it at the local level. Just do it at the local level. Whatever, just personal word of mouth, get together people, no money, no big money required. So she started this. I just wanted to see some 3-minute clip on what she has accomplished in Delhi. In Noida, actually.
Namaskar. I'm very thankful to the organizers of the FIAP conference and also to my team and to the entire team of the Plastic Cow team. I live in Noida. My name is Jayanti. Initially, about 2 years ago, I started working with the council to the plastics manufacturers. So raising and benefits their equivalents to scavengers. And then we found that most of these cows were owned. And then we used to follow these cows and the owners. And we realized that these people, the owners, were not ready to even talk to us rather than listen to us. The question is, what can be done? Somebody I knew suggested me to put this problem in books. That's how I came in touch with the plastic cocktail. I went to Development Discovery Society and even watched the donatory operation thanks to the Kindness Trust. What can we do about this? Because this is a national issue. There's nobody to listen. If we talk to the authorities, they don't care. If we talk to the residential welfare associations, they are only stuck on one point as to why the cows are on the streets. And of course, you can't talk to the owners. A year ago, I hired a person who was to go around at different parts of South India. And this person used to even try talking to residential welfare association heads, went around talking to applicants. That's when I realized hiring a person is not going to help. What needs to be done has to be done by one's own self or in association with others. So I contacted some NGOs in Noida who were very strong in environment related projects. So I came upon this Navaratna Foundation, and through them I got a platform to address many people. The founder of the Navaratna Foundation is Ashok Srivastava. He encouraged his youth club and made it about 106 street plays in different parts of Noida. That was a good initiative to start awareness programs. I also came across the Pradhan, the head of the village of Mithali, and we went to a couple of schools, collected students, started environment clubs, went around shouting slogans, and even distributed mass pamphlets. Then a couple of more NGOs joined us, and we did a conclave. That was a big success for us. We somehow managed to get all the important people out of the conclave. The CEO of Noida Authority, Pollution Control Board, the RWA heads, Grand Pradhans, we got all of them together on one platform. Financing this entire project. I've been working on this for the last 10 months now or more, and this thing has not costed me much except for the conclave where we had to invest some money. So there is not much of an expense related issue in this, because when a lot of people join in, some amount of funds can also be collected, and locally you can find a lot of sponsors. So if you plan to start a chapter, if you plan to start this initiative in your town, in your city, try to get as many people involved. There can be NGOs, there can be ordinary people, there can be school children, college children. Try to get everybody involved at different levels. To have a big group, aim to have a lot of people who are supporting you in this cause. So this is how I think a chapter should be. I wish you all the very best.